Hi, do you want to introduce yourself to us?
Introduce myself. It's very hard to introduce yourself sometimes. But my name's Emma Pinnock. How do I describe myself? I am a Christian. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a trained teacher, but now also run a business. I do many things, so it's very hard to describe myself, but that's a little bit about me.
Okay, so a couple of quick questions, fun questions. Mornings or evenings?
Evenings.
Okay, late or on time?
Oh, should I tell the truth? Late.
Great.
Usually late.
Always tells us a bit about somebody with that.
10
Although
minutes.
you were on time
Always
today.
10 minutes. There's this 10 minutes thing.
Okay, so today we are going to be talking about taking daring risks. So tell us, what are you afraid of?
I thought about this question, and it's really, really hard actually, because I don't think I have many fears. I don't walk around with like lots of fears. But if I was going to say that if I had like hopes of the things that I wouldn't want to feel at the end of whatever life was going to be, it would be to be disconnected. I'd hate to be disconnected. Do I call it a fear or just a concern? Disconnected from God, disconnected from myself, and disconnected from people that I love. So that would be something that I would definitely be inspiring to not happen in my life. But it's not a massive fear. Yeah.
Love it. What have you done that you were once scared of?
Wow. Being a really organised person, I like organisation, I like a little plan. There's always a plan behind in my mind about what I'm going to do next. But there have been times when I've had to take a leap without a plan, and those times have been scary. Those times have kind of made me have to really rely on faith, really rely on what I'm believing in the Spirit. And so, yeah, those scary moments when I haven't got a plan but I've had to make a leap, those would be the times when I've been feeling a bit scared, definitely.
So you, not long ago, set up your own business?
It's 4 years now.
Wow. So do you
Yeah.
want to tell us a bit about that journey?
So that was one of those experiences without a plan. There was a time when everything just started to come together. I felt God was moving me. There was external factors that could take a long time for me to explain, but there was external factors. I believe that God was moving me, but there was no solid plan, and I literally just had to take that leap. So 4 years ago, I started the Essential Education Group. 2 years of that has been a pandemic. Whoop! So it's been an interesting time, but actually, it's just been a time of really relying on that faith and understanding that I believe this is the journey I'm meant to be on. Every single day I feel it, and continuing on that journey, really. So that's been part of the spiritual side of the journey. The practical side of that journey has been very interesting too. Lots and lots of learning, lots and lots of learning. I was a teacher. A trained teacher in a classroom, had a career for 20 years in education, and then all of a sudden I left this very secure space of knowing where my career was going, having this predicted direction of having the head teacher role and all of this, and then all of a sudden I was in a space where I was creating for myself. I was creating this new business, so that has been a very practically scary place to be.
I can imagine.
So yes.
I heard you say you felt like God was leading you. Do you want to explain that to our audience a bit? What does that mean?
Definitely. Sometimes situations kind of line up. So when I was on maternity leave, and I think lots of mothers will be able to understand this moment, I was like, okay, I'm going back to this really high demanding job. Is this what life is going to be? And is this what I really want it to be? And then I kind of had this question of, oh, but what would I even do outside of the classroom? It's become my life, really. And so this little niggling thing was in my head as I was in maternity leave, but I went back to work with all gusto and continued because I absolutely loved my job. I loved what I was doing. And then as time went on a little bit more, you realise that you have changed as a person as well, but there was just this thing of God just speaking slowly and surely to me, knowing that I don't like the change, and just slowly talking to me. And then part of that journey, I went back in the March. By the September, I met a family, and it was a really strange conversation. It's never a conversation I would have expected to have with a family, being in the role that I was. But they wanted their children to join the space that I was heading up, and I met this family, and in this conversation, it just took a left turn. This guy was an inspirational speaker working around the world, and he started to just kind of speak into what I could do next. And I thought, but why has this happened? This has never happened to me before, where a parent is speaking to me on this level. So another seed was then kind of there, again pushed to the back of my mind, being the stubborn mare that I am, and not really focusing on it because I loved my job. But actually I do think there was just a next journey to happen for me, and as time was going on, lots of things was being spoken into me, but actually I was continuing to be stubborn. The organisation changed a little bit, and with the change of organisation, a change in relationships, and sometimes then that's when the pressures kind of built on top of you a little bit more. And that pressure was there. It was definitely there. So it was understanding that all of these changes were happening at the same time. You know, my son was then at the point, coming to the end of nursery, about to go to school. All of these little things were starting to come together. And I remember waking up one Saturday morning at 3:00 in the morning, knowing that that was the time. It was now. And feeling the Spirit really just move me on it. I think I've left out a lot of that story, but just sharing the key points. And 3:00 in the morning, woke up and I thought, okay, so I spoke to a person that I needed to see if they would take over this space that I was heading up. They said enthusiastic yes, and I was really happy that they did that. I met them on the Sunday to have that conversation, had a coffee together. And then on the Monday by 2:00, I handed in my resignation. And it was from that point. There was no clear plan, but I knew it was time to leave. The Sunday as well, after having that conversation, I was here at church, spoke to the pastor that was here at the time, the senior pastor that was here at the time, Pastor Dave. He spoke words of affirmation around it as well. And I walked out to go to the family centre, and somebody had on the back of their jacket, "Do not look back." And I just thought, okay, the decision is now made. I am not looking back. And from there on, I handed in my notice. That would have been the January. I left the July, and I've been working since the August non-stop. Wow. So God is good.
I love that you said you had no clear plan.
No.
That's a bit crazy. That's a bit crazy.
No.
So if you were giving advice to somebody who was saying they feel stuck and they want to move forward but they're afraid, what advice would you give to them?
I would always like to say, oh, just take the leap. But actually, we always have to look at our own personal circumstances and really understand what our heart and spirit's saying. So sometimes people need a plan. Sometimes it is about just getting up and going, I've got to do this. And you will know really and truly what's right for you in the moment. When you are stuck, it's about really just standing still for a minute, really reflecting for a moment and wondering, you know, am I stuck? Thinking why you're stuck. What is it that's causing you to feel stuck? And sometimes it's something within ourselves that we need to shift. Sometimes it's something externally. Sometimes it's God saying it's time to move. And I think it's that moment you have to stand still for a minute. You have to reflect and wonder what's going on. And I think that would be my number one bit of advice. Stand still for a minute, reflect for a moment, and then make a decision.
I love that.
Yeah.
Stand still. That's great. And then last question. So does it always work out when you take a risk? And if not, how do you deal with that?
No, I don't think it always does work out when you take a risk, but you've got to think about, how can I word this? The risk is making the move, not necessarily the outcome of the move. So there's been many things that I've done in the business that haven't really worked out straight away. They really haven't, and I'm sure there's going to be more going forward. But actually, the actual action of being in the business was the risk. That bit has worked out. The things that I'm doing along the line might be the things I have to work out, and it's understanding that bit. There will be failures, and there will be things that you think, oh my goodness, was that the right route to take, or should I have been looking at that? There will always be that, because that's life. But actually, if you stand on the one thing that you know for sure, that this is the right direction, I think that's how you kind of counteract the fact that risk will always be there. Knowing that you're standing on faith, knowing that you're standing on the understanding that this is the journey that you really believe you're meant to be on. So risk can never be taken out of the equation. I would have said I was naturally risk averse before doing this. I wouldn't have naturally done this in this way, but actually I've learned and grown into the fact that risk is just part of everything that we do. And without risk, we don't grow. And without risk, we don't learn. So just make the mistakes. It's fine. Literally just make them.
Love that.
Yeah.
Without risks, we don't grow. Without risks, we don't learn.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.